What's up, Ride Warriors, and welcome to another episode of Ride Warrior Wrestling. Just yesterday, AEW put on their second event, Fyter Fest. This one was in conjunction with a gaming convention being put on with the group called CEO, and this one was free for most people living in America. So, even though I'm a longtime WWE fan, I want to give AEW a chance. I want to experience it. I did not watch Double or Nothing. I did not watch All In. I've obviously watched the highlights, watched or read the results. I know kind of what's going on. And I want to experience Fyter Fest because it was free, from start to finish, with the pre-show, with the show itself, and get a good feel for what AEW is all about here. So first and foremost, I want to tell you that this episode, we're going to go through each match. We're going to look at my quick reactions to this stuff. But first off, let me say, some general things about the presentation. One, I kind of like the set. I know it was recycled from Double or Nothing with the double entrance tunnels. But having the gimmick of Fyter Fest, I'm still undecided if it was lame or if it was cool. And it seems that since then they've announced that they are going to do Fyter Fest yearly, if they can. And I like the gimmick. On the pre-show they tried to do like documentary style backstage skits, which kind of took me by surprise because there were reports coming out that they weren't going to do backstage skits ever, or maybe not ever, but they were going to try and shy away from it. And it seemed more of like that comedy aspect. They were funny. They weren't super funny. It was something to pass the time a little bit on the pre-show. But first and foremost, the set, I think, looked cheesy but good. They had the models out there on the pre-show, which I thought was awesome. They opened the show, but then they took them away for the main show. And I'm kind of like, I understood the gimmick of what was going on, trying to play into the whole Fyter Fest gimmick going on, at least on the pre-show, but they never carried it over onto the main show, which I thought was a little strange. Second, once we got to the main show, the commentary, as a lot of people have been saying, is pretty bad. And it's mainly Jim Ross. And I love Jim Ross. I thought he was great during the Attitude Era. I watched him on Raw every single week. I adored Jim Ross. But he has lost a step. I don't know if it's just that he's not connecting with the performers, that he doesn't have, that knowledge of what's going on, or he's just the stuff he talks about just doesn't make sense sometimes. And it's I wish they would move away from it. And I know Cody has a lot of connections to Ross, and I know people want to see Jim Ross involved, but he's really bringing down the commentary team at this time. So that also was hard to get through. And I think the other big thing that I saw is that without having weekly television to set up some of these characters, to set up who these wrestlers are, it's kind of just like walking into an indie show at some point and just accepting it for the matches. And that's great. I go to plenty of indie shows, walk in, don't know who anybody is, and have a good time. But I think if AEW wants to compete on that higher level and wants to be a top-notch promotion, that hopefully we see these characters developed over time. I think they do have a lot of new guys that are going to be interesting. I think they have a lot of guys that people are talking about right now that aren't going to materialize into much of anything. So let's go through the matches real quick. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here talking about each and every match, but I do think a lot of these matches, a lot of them were good. A lot of them had some rough spots in them. But I think as the night progressed, I think things got progressively better too. So we opened up with a triple threat tag team match with SoCal Uncensored, the Best Friends, Private Party. Now, a lot of these guys, if you've never watched, AEW before, and you have watched, TNA Impact, you might recognize some of these guys. A good opening match. I thought, this match was interesting. There's something on the line here for a first round bye in the first round of the AEW tag team tournament. And The Best Friends winning, I thought SoCal Uncensored might have won, being that they've been being pushed a lot more through promotional stuff. But the Best Friends won, so they're going to get that first round bye. The next match was a women's match between Allie, that once again you probably know from TNA Impact, against Leva Bates, the librarian. Now they've been doing that whole librarian gimmick, and once again, kind of comedy-based, which I thought was nice. Leva Bates, you might know from NXT as Blue Pants. This was another good match. I enjoyed that Allie won. I really, I picked up on Impact over the last few months, been watching that, and I've really liked Allie's work in Impact. And now that she's jumped to AEW, I like the Dark Alley gimmick. I never really got into the Bunny Alley gimmick, and that's what she's doing again, somewhat on AEW. But so far, I like what I see. That Alley and both Leva Bates is a good wrestler. Allie's a good wrestler, and I'm glad to see that Allie went over in this match. The next match is one that completely befuddles me, and this is where I'm going to do a little roasting. And Michael Nakazawa fought Alex Jabali, and Alex Jabali is the CEO or the CEO of CEO, and he's in charge there. And it just felt weird to me. It was a hardcore match that did a lot of comedy spots, and they have the big hardcore match at the end of the night with John Moxley. That's going to be a legit hardcore match, and I feel like they were almost making fun of themselves. And it seems like the crowd was all behind this. And I'll tell you what, if WWE pulled something like this, people would be shitting all over this. But because it's a new company, because it's AEW, people are giving them a free pass here, which is all fine and good. I enjoy stuff like this, but I don't think that you can, get down on, WWE for bringing in some celebrity and putting him in a match and then having, this on AEW and saying that's one of the greatest things ever. I personally have no problem with celebrities having, time on a card as long as it's not overly done, they don't overstay their welcome. This was a funny match. I didn't think I would like Michael Nakazawa, but he was actually really entertaining in this match, and some of the spots he did with the baby oil and all that were actually really, really funny. Obviously, comedy wrestling, which I was a little surprised to see on something that AEW said they were presenting themselves as a little bit different, and I'm not quite sure. That was my other overall thing, is I wasn't sure if it was just the pre-show, but at this point, moving on to the main show, I'm not getting that huge feeling that AEW is all that different from WWE. They're still doing or backstage segments. They're still doing, some of the comedy stuff, comedy spots, which is all fine and good. I'm all for that. I like it in WWE. I liked it in AEW, but AEW kind of presented themselves as something different, and thus far, I haven't really seen anything different. So moving on to the main show, we got Christopher Daniels versus Shima. And Christopher Daniels, I've been watching him. He started off here in Chicago when I was a kid. I remember watching him in Windy City Pro Wrestling. So I'm actually shocked that he's still around and still, working a full-time schedule like he is. And I'll tell you what, he does a great job reinventing himself. He does a great job in the ring. So this match was actually really entertaining as well. And putting it on the opening match, I think really set the crowd up for a good evening. And Shima, of course, won that because he's getting the big push onto the next show, which is, All Out or Fight for the Fallen as well. So the next match was the other women's match. I had no interest in this whatsoever. Once again, I don't have any connection to any of these three wrestlers. This match just hit nothing for me. I kind of was just kind of like tuning out for most of that. And then we moved to Adam Page versus MJF versus Jungle Boy versus Jimmy Havoc. Now, MJF is one of these guys that everyone keeps talking about as being this monster heel. I saw someone tweet that he's the most over heel in the world right now. And I don't know. I think he could be good. But right now, what he did was he cut a traditional heel promo ripped on the crowd. We see this being done in a lot of indies every single weekend. He's good at it. I'm not going to say that he's not good at it. The stuff he said was great, was funny, got him over as a heel. But is he the most over heel? I don't know about that. I'm not going to sit here. And I think a lot of people are trying to oversell some of what's happening in AEW, when I don't think you have to. Let AEW evolve. Let it grow. There's no reason to completely shit on it, and there's no reason to say that this is the greatest thing ever. It is what it is. It's a new promotion. They're going to struggle, and I think MJF is going to be one of those bright spots, I think, down the line that they got to build him up. Luchasaurus coming out with Jungle Boy, and Jungle Boy riding Luchasaurus to the ring, I thought was fantastic. Now, obviously, I know Luchasaurus from Lucha Underground when he was La Vibora. And so I was really happy to see those two paired up and in that way. And then Jimmy Havoc was a bright spot as well in this match. He has a nice entrance, nice look. The one guy who I thought was unimpressive that, I was never a huge New Japan fan. I followed New Japan for about a year. Adam Page has just never really impressed me all that much. And with all the star power that AEW has, I'm a little bit surprised that they're pushing Adam Page to the world title at All Out. That kind of surprised me a little bit. I don't know if he has that world champion look to him. Yes, he's a good wrestler, but there's good wrestlers all over the place in every promotion. Does he have the personality to carry the belt? I don't know. We're gonna find out because he's getting pushed a lot here. Once again, winning this match as well. Adam Page taking that with the buckshot lariat. So good match. I don't think there's anything spectacular being done here. A few good spots here and there, a few funny spots here and there. But Adam Page wins that. And then I think at this point we start getting into the real card. And these are the matches I was really looking forward to, looking at the card beforehand. And that starts with Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. And I'll tell you what, Darby Allin, now here's a star. I'm not saying that he's world champion star. He could be. I see a lot of Jeff Hardy in him. But he's got a great gimmick. He's got a great look. He's got the pedigree on the indie scene to back that all up. Him bringing out the body bag and the story they told that this was the one of the few matches that had a little bit of a video package before, and they made Darby Allin look really good. They made him look like a viable contender against Cody Rhodes. I actually wish that we had some television to set up this feud, because right now everything just seems like it's being thrown together, like two guys are just going to wrestle each other because there's no story behind it. We don't get that build-up like we do for the WWE pay-per-views. But Darby Allin, even in that 30-second spot that they did, looked like a star. And he came out and he put on a fine match, did the whole underdog role very well. He's a good wrestler. He's exciting to watch. I didn't like the whole body bag spot at the end. It looked weak. That came across a few times where a few things looked weak here and there across the whole show, not just this match. I thought Cody looked good. Brandy, of course, looks great, as always. And I hate to say it, but what's overshadowing this great match, and it really irritates me, that Darby Allin and what he did at Fyter Fest is being overshadowed by the stupid chair shot at the end. That we had, Shawn Spears come out and deliver a headshot with the chair to Cody, busted him open pretty good. Don't know if the chair caused the busting open. Don't know if he bladed. Hard to tell. Some people have said afterwards that the chair was gimmicked and something went wrong. I don't care. This was a stupid spot for me. I did not like this. I don't think Shawn Spears is a star. I don't think this made him a star. A lot of people are like, oh, it's making him look like a complete badass. I don't think it makes him look like that at all. He did one chair shot to the head. Anyone who's watched wrestling for a long time, yeah, it's shocking today, but we used to see this routinely being done. And granted, there's reasons why it is not done at all anymore, and that's legitimate reasons of concussions and people getting hurt. And I think them doing this was in poor taste. especially considering all the people whose careers have been ended or close to ended because of concussions, and the fact that it's overshadowing such a good match and overshadowing a person, Darby Allin, who I think is going to be a much bigger star than Shawn Spears will ever be. I like the Ty Dillinger gimmick. I like the Perfect 10. I thought he had a great entrance. But for me, that's always where it stopped. He's not that young. He's on the older side. He's on the second half. He's on the older side, so his career's not going to go on much longer. And to push him against Cody, against when you have a star like Darby Allin, who is young, who is still have a lot of upside, I think that overshadowed the whole match. But speaking of the match, this was one of my favorite matches on the card, Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin. I love those two together. I like to see what Darby Allin's going to do here in the future. The next match was a match I wasn't so sure about. It was the Elite against the Lucha Brothers and the new kid, Laredo Kid. Pentagon Dark, Pentagon Jr., whatever you call him, this guy's a star. He was a star in Lucha Underground. He's been a star on the Indies. He was somewhat of a star in Impact. That's when they started doing a lot of the tag team stuff with Ray Phoenix. And they put on one hell of a match with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. I was not expecting the cosplay for the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, but when they came out as Akuma and Ken and Ryu, I thought that was classic. I loved it. And this was another fantastic matchup. Pentagon showing why he's one of the top wrestlers in the world. I'm just hoping, as much as I like the Lucha Brothers, as much as I like their tag team, I like Pentagon as a single star, as a main eventer, more so than anything else. And I know that he has loyalty to his brother. And hopefully they can do a Phoenix and Laredo Kid tag team and break away Pentagon to go on to the singles rounds. Because I'll tell you what, Pentagon, as much as they're trying to build up their tag team division, you also need to build up your heavyweight division as well for the world title. And I think if Pentagon Dark or Pentagon is not in that mix, I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity in AEW. Pentagon is just so entertaining to watch. Everything that he does, especially in the middle of the ring when he took off the glove and faced off with Kenny Omega. Here you have two main event guys looking at each other in this 6-man tag. And I'll tell you what, you could feel the electricity between those two. We saw them at All In fight a dream match between those two. And hopefully we get to see one of those again. And hopefully it's for a little bit more stakes with a world title on the line. Hopefully, we'll see. So that was another fantastic matchup. The Elite winning that match, obviously, to get them over. And then the last match was, now, I've been sitting here listening to the John Moxley, Dean Ambrose fans, and he's fighting Joey Janella in this non-sanctioned hardcore match. And, I was never a Dean Ambrose fan in WWE. I liked him in the Shield. I liked what he did. I wanted him to win the WWE title, and when he did, I was really excited, but then I felt that he fell flat on his face. And you can blame the writers for that. You can blame him for that. I don't care. I want to get into that. But here, I didn't know how AEW was going to present John Moxley, because if they tried to present him as Dean Ambrose, that just wasn't going to work. And so here, I was really excited to see that he is being presented as this hardcore wrestler, as going back to his roots of when he wrestled on the indie scene, doing all this deathmatch stuff. And I was really intrigued by everything that was being done in this non-sanctioned match against Joey Janela. Joey Janela did not look all that great. And I think if there's one criticism of AEW is they got to get all these new guys, and they got to get them looking better. They don't look like, and maybe this is just I've become so accustomed to people coming out of the Performance Center that they look like $1 million when they step in the ring. AEW, a lot of these other guys like Joey Janela and MJF, they don't have that look to them. They don't have that main event look. And even if they have like MJF, here's a guy who has the mic skills, who has the charisma, but you need the look too. That's always been part of wrestling. You can't be one without the other if you're going to be a legitimate, world champion or big top star. You got to have the look. And as much as people don't want to hear that nowadays, that is the fact. That's always been. And when they don't look like that, and Joey Janella looked like a bum coming into this match, and that's part of his gimmick a little bit. But Jon Moxley looked like $1 million. Jon Moxley looked better than maybe he ever did in WWE. He looked toned, he looked tan, he had a swagger to him, he got that attitude back, and he put on a great match. He did the hardcore style perfectly with the barbed wire spots, the barbed wire chair, the barbed wire planks, the tables, the thumbtacks. He did it all here, and Joey and him put on a great match, and I was really surprised. So I think at the end of the day, if Jon Moxley sticks to that hardcore gimmick, I think that's going to be a moneymaker there. I think that's going to sell tickets. And I think I was pleasantly surprised. I went in wanting to hate it, and I came out actually enjoying a lot of what happened. And I think a lot of that can be said across the whole show, that I wasn't quite sure what Fyter Fest is, what was it going to be. I've heard a lot of people, on both sides talking about AEW. And I think there's a lot of work here still. To say that this was people proclaiming this is better than WWE, no. Let's be serious here. The bottom line is that they're on a nice road to being viable competition, but right now they are not there. They got to clean up a lot of stuff. They got a lot of good ideas. They got a lot of good talent. And I think they need to start, capitalizing on what they have good there and building up the people that are new and selling them to us. I'm a little bit upset that Kylie Ray wasn't on this show. She was advertised to be on the pre-show. That did not happen. They put Allie in there instead. So I think she's another big star that is really that I look forward to seeing. So I think guys like MJF, guys like Pentagon need to be at the top. Darby Allin needs to be at the top or pushed a lot harder. And then Kylie Ray for the women's division. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in AEW. But to sit there and say that it's already better than WWE, I think is a silly statement. Also, the AEW chants are just annoying. It's passable on NXT because it doesn't sound like ECW, but trying to make this and trying to make it sound like ECW, EC-dub, calling it AE-dub, it just I don't know, it's annoying to me. It doesn't work here. And it barely works in NXT when they chant it. I get annoyed there as well. But here it just certainly doesn't work. It's more than annoying. So if anyone's watching, please stop that if you can. But overall, I think Fyter Fest, an interesting show. I spent my time well watching it. I'll say that. I think there's a lot of positives here, but there are also a lot of negatives here that I think they're going to have trouble fixing some of them. And they might be able to fix a few of them. So hopefully when they start moving on to TNT, we start getting some of these backstories, start seeing maybe a few more differences than trying to separate it from WWE. But I think right now, I think we're still in the infancy stage that it still needs to grow. I think to proclaim it as something now is silly. We don't know. And I certainly don't know where this is going to go. I hope for the best because I like a lot of what I saw. I don't like a lot of what I saw. And I think over the next few months, we're going to get a better picture of what AEW is going to be all about. So as always, I'm Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois. Right on, Ride Warriors.